Okay, this is Moonglade here from Team Acer on the second day of DreamHack Summer, and I'm standing here with PiG, who just qualified to the next group stage. How are you doing today, and how did your group go?
Good. Yeah, the group was pretty good. I came out first. I went 2-1, 2-0, and 2-1. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident. My ZVT was a little bit shaky, but yeah, I'm pretty happy.
It's fun that you mentioned that, because I looked at your group on Wikipedia, and so far you've had to play 5 CVZs and then 1 TVZ. And I don't know, as playing against... Are Australian Zergs generally better at ZVZ, given that most of the top players in Australia actually are Zergs? And like, do you feel like that helped you win today?
Yeah, I think ZVZ has been something that I've just had to work on for a long time. So I think I've got an understanding of it that's quite solid. I feel like my ZVP is really strong right now as well. My ZVT as well it's all kind of improved, so there's kind of just the fact that I've been training more has made it better. But the fact that for 2 years, every time I've wanted to win a major tournament, I've had to beat Moonglade and Ninja, Mafia, T-Gun, all kind of the top Australian Zerg players. It's kind of been the one matchup that I've actually sat there and studied the most.
So talk to me a little bit about the Australian hierarchy, because most people probably know about you and Moonglade, and then they've probably heard about Mafia, I'd say, but like other than that, it seems pretty shaky. So like, who are the best players in the scene in general in Australia?
At the moment, obviously it goes up and down as it does anywhere, but at the moment, King Kong, who's an ex-Startail player, he's living in Brisbane studying, so he's playing for an Australian team. He's won a couple of major events recently, so he'd be right up the very top. Mafia has been taking a bit of time off. I'm not sure if he's retiring or coming back, but he's always been right up the very top as well. And then you've got a bunch of other really good players. The best Terran is Iagaz. Some people would know him from... He's been on like Artosis show Meta and a few other podcasts and things. He's the bearded guy that looks like Gimli. He's really awesome. He's a really strong Terran player, and I guess like everyone in Southeast Asia, he's got really strong TVZ. And there's Light, who's a guy who plays part-time, but he's the top Protoss player, and he's really good despite working and only playing every now and then. Okay
then, so you mentioned then there previously that every time you've had to win, you want to win a major, you faced up against Moonglade toward the finals, and I checked up the statistics for you overall, you against Moonglade on Team Liquid, and you're both pretty even in terms of wins. I think he has 15 wins against you and you have 12. And I think it's interesting to look at when you guys played the WCS Australia finals last year, and you beat them 2-0 in the finals, and then the very next day at the Oceania finals, which you had to win to qualify for the WCS finals or WCS Asia finals.
Yeah, that's right.
He beat you 2-0 just the day afterwards. So like, what happened in that span of time? And yeah,
Zerg vs Zerg's like really volatile and crazy. Like, there's a saying I have, which is you've got to go full retard to win Zerg vs Zerg consistently. Like, as soon as you become predictable, as soon as you kind of slow down in your play, start like thinking too much, you kind of just die because it's so fast paced. So in that particular tournament, I think that was kind of like the biggest win I'd ever had, and I was super excited. And I think I just didn't sleep well, didn't take care of my condition very well the next day, and I think Glade just kind of adjusted his play and I didn't, so he just kind of made the smart adjustment, and I did exactly the same thing as the day before. I got predictable, and so he beat me.
When you mentioned that you just can't think during a ZVZ, was that the same experience you had when you were practicing in Korea in the Prime House? Because the general notion about Koreans, at least in the Western scene, is that they think through everything so much more solid than a non-Korean player would. But like, how would then, say, Arya from Prime, if he was on the team at the time, how would he think through his CVCs when he tried to break it down for you? Like, yeah.
I'm pretty sure he actually swapped to Protoss.
Oh.
So he was probably the lowest skilled level player while I was there, if I'm thinking of the right person. But they actually didn't have such strong Zergs in the house. In terms of their versus Zerg, I was really surprised because I hadn't really had any wins internationally, like against top level players, and as soon as I went to the Prime House, I was actually winning sets against Boong Boong, who was like rank 1 GM on Korea, Classic, who's like, top 100 and stuff. Maru I'd have close series with, and Marine King I'd even take games off. So I was always kind of shocked, and I think their team was very weak against Zerg because they only had Boom Boom as like one really solid Zerg player in the house. The way they kind of focus on it, I think the real advantage is the fact that you're playing so much that your mechanics are a lot better. So I guess it's not really the fact that they think things through more, it's that they're more confident in what they can execute, and so they realize when they can punish someone. I think a lot of foreign players who don't have the benefit of this team house environment, practicing 8 hours a day, talking to other people, they're not as confident mechanically with being aggressive. You find a lot of passive play in foreigners. I fall victim to this all the time, where I just kind of want to defend and make a better decision than my opponent. But that allows your opponent to get away with a lot of greed. Maybe they can do an all-in play, something like that. If you leave your opponent alone, that allows them to do whatever they want, basically. So I think the main thing is Koreans very much try to push every advantage aggressively. So as soon as you expose yourself in some way, if they scout it and identify what you're doing, they're going to say, okay, a minute from now, if I hit with this certain pressure or timing, it's going to either win the game or get me a big advantage while I do this transition behind it. And there's always kind of layers of transitions which kind of come instinctively over time, because you realize that all-ins don't work as often. So you kind of work around these constant aggressive advantages, which I think, because foreign players don't go for those aggressive advantages and they sit back, they're not making as many clean, smooth transitions. At least, if you speak generally. I mean, obviously there's some foreign players that are just amazing at transitioning still.
Okay then, so now that you've already talked about pretty much for length about how ZVZ is volatile, as I mentioned earlier, you won 5 ZVZs to get where you are here today, so just, do you feel like with Heart of the Swarm there's come a level of stability, or is it just because the meta hasn't settled in yet with the Spore Crawler buff and such?
I think it's been kind of turned on its head at the moment. A lot of players are having trouble adapting. I think it's good though, because there are options. There is kind of like this circular tier 2 way of different units. This unit counters this unit. Like, you've got the Mutalisk, the Swarm Host, and the Infestor. And the Infestor can hold off Mutalisks and get an advantage by building up energy. Mutalisks just beat Swarm Hosts straight up, and Swarm Hosts basically beat Infestors. So you get this kind of triangle where, at the moment, a lot of people aren't comfortable using Swarm Hosts in ZVZ. I'm not really comfortable either. But I think in the future we're going to see this thing where, because players have all these different options, because the Spore Crawler stops Mutalisks just killing players outright, you're going to have constant transitions, and it's going to make the matchup a lot more exciting.
Yeah, because I saw a game yesterday with Stefano, in groups, where Stefano faced against some other Zerg, and they both went for the same composition, which was Brood Lord Swarm Host, and then they would have these massive battles, but it would only be expendable units, basically, in the Broodlings and the Locusts, just fighting. And it seemed as if, because it always turned in the other guy's favor once in a while, where they got under perhaps with a couple more Hydralisks and stuff. So do you think that tech switching in general is more important in CVZ now? Because I think Stefano ultimately won that game because he had a faster Hydralisk transition and managed to get them in under his opponent's Broodlords faster than he could react. So do you think that just tech switching is the best way to absolutely deal, like radically tech switching is the best way to deal with Zerg late game in ZVZ?
Yeah, I think as soon as it gets to a kind of big situation, as long as the game's not filled with static, like if the map's just covered in static defense, it's all about building a perfect death ball. But assuming there's a lot of counterattacks, there's a lot of to and fro, it's all about how quickly you make those transitions. So Swarm Hosts, for instance, if your opponent doesn't realize you're going Swarm Hosts, they build a lot of Roach Hydra. If you're really good with those Swarm Hosts, you stop their counterattacks, you get a really good advantage. But likewise, if you stay on Swarm Hosts too long, they go straight to Broodlords, they get an advantage again. So it's kind of how quick you can move, I guess, into these transitions. Yeah, I think that's a really important thing in Zerg vs. Zerg right now.
Okay then, so looking forward into the tournament, how do you have any idea who's going to be in your groups, in your third group?
I don't have any idea yet. I just know we're playing at 10 PM tonight. I know I'll get 1 first place seed because I was seeded first in my group, and 2 second place seeds. So it could be anyone. I think it's all randomized, but I'm probably just going to go rest up a bit, conserve my energy, have a nap, and then come back and hopefully get some more Zergs and Protosses. Yeah.
Okay then, well, thank you for the interview. Any final shoutouts?
Just shout out to my team, Exile5, and all their sponsors, as well as Gigabyte Notebooks. Just all the fans tuning in and supporting and coming down to DreamHack.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.